Every season, there are usually a few games that go down as the most memorable. And while we've already had a few contenders, without question, when the Thunder visited the Spurs last night on national TV, they gave us a game for the ages. LaMarcus Aldridge filled up the nets for a career-high 56 points, Russell Westbrook set his teammates up for a career-high 24 assists, and both teams treated us to a roller coaster ride with 2 extra periods needed to decide who would walk away as victor of the best game of the season. The Spurs don't shoot a lot of threes, but when they do, they're usually Dos Equis. Never mind. Actually, they didn't miss any of their 10 attempts in the first half to give them control of the game. If Marco Bellinelli had his way, they'd shoot a lot more of them. Wouldn't you, if you could hit off balance, contested off the dribble threes like this? A typical Spurs possession has all 5 players moving at the same time, trying to bend the defense out of position. Poeltl rolls, forcing Diallo to bump down to him. Mills hits Bertan on the corner lift, and the hop quick release gets him an open look. The Thunder kept pace, however, as Russell Westbrook turned in arguably his finest game of his career. He was under control, made smart decisions with the ball, and looked to set teammates up first. The Thunder attacked with him down low in the post often, and checked the nifty shuffle pass underneath and the creative finish by Grant to get him an assist. With the defense in position and a sizable deficit, he smartly pulls it back out to get a better shot. And when he catches Poeltl helping one pass away a little bit too far, Patterson nails the corner 3. Nothing about Aldridge's first half indicated he would set a career high in points, as he went 6 for 11 for 14 and found early success beating Adams to the spot for deep post position. But perhaps this fumble into jumper provided us some inkling that this was a special night. Derek White is at the top of my favorite players list this year, mainly because he's a tough competitor, doesn't try and do too much, but has lots of skill and basketball IQ. The Spurs' goal on this type of pick and roll is to relieve pressure to the wing for a post feed. But Poeltl doesn't roll towards the ball, so White sees an opening against Russ. Perfect spin move and finish with the left hand gives them a 16-point lead. The third was more Aldridge scoring versus Russ assisting. Early in the quarter, they used the roll to get Aldridge going to the hoop on deep paint catches where Adams gets pulled out of position, and there's very little the defense can do when he's getting the ball this close to the basket. Check this beauty of a play the Spurs uncork for Aldridge. He sets the first of a double ball screen to the left side, but the real action is Forbes coming up to back screen. Schroeder never calls it, Adams has no idea, and there's Derek White throwing the pinpoint lob for an easy flush. #basketball. Russ kept his team within shouting distance in the third with 6 assists, and he again took what the defense was giving him, didn't force it, and hooked up on some easy dump-off passes to Adams in the lane for 3 dimes. Bottom line, when I'm saying this is the best I've ever seen Russ play, that should speak volumes. Some on Twitter wanted to accuse him of stat-hunting assists, but to me, what he did was just playing the point guard position properly. With the game almost in the bank for the Spurs, Russ did something that really surprised me. He didn't jack up a wild 3 like he's done in the past, trying to jumpstart the offense. Check the hesitation, which sucks 3 defenders into the paint, opening an easy pass out top for a huge triple from Grant. The key sequence in regulation saw Jeremy Grant finally do something to stop Aldridge down low, with an amazing block of a running hook shot. And then Paul George pressures the follow-up. The great hustle to pry the ball free, and normally we'd see Russ look to take a quick contested shot, but instead he takes his time and sets up Ferguson for another crucial 3-pointer to cut it to 1. On the next possession, Derek White takes advantage of the terrible defense by Russ, who consistently tries to reach around NBA players for their dribble, and White makes him pay with the nifty fall-away. Down by 3, another shocking moment as Russ, who's down to 23% from behind the arc, doesn't shoot a wide-open shot here, instead snapping a gorgeous cross-court pass right on the money to the wide-open Ferguson for yet another 3, and somehow we have a tie game. Finally, the Thunder double-team Aldridge immediately, and when it's kicked out, Russ is in good position, but Derek White, mama. In need of a quick 2, the Thunder get Russ a lane to the hoop, the Spurs don't want to stop the clock with a foul, and they cut it to 1. This is when it got a little strange, as Ferguson is manhandling Bellinelli away from the ball, giving the referee no choice but to call it. Since it was a dead ball foul, it's 1 free throw plus the ball back to the Spurs. This should have ended the game. But one reason I don't like sending a receiver way back into the backcourt is that if you don't throw it to him, you now only have 4 players to throw it to under what is sure to be heavy duress. Paul George can freely double, knowing his man cannot receive a pass back to the backcourt. It's a turnover, and Derek White is forced to foul. There was an immediate review of whether this was a clear path foul. There's a lot to unpack here, so join me and Ronnie Nunn in part 2 of this video as we'll explain what happened in more detail, plus a host of other strange calls that enraged both teams to no end. Because they weren't in the bonus, it's a side out of bounds, and Russ continued to make great decisions. Rather than force a tough shot off the pick and roll, he waits an extra beat for Grant to get into position, then throws his perfect lob to tie the game. The Spurs have plenty of time to run something, and watch how they curl Patty Mills off a Derek White screen, then DeMar DeRozan off the same screen, getting him a step on his man. Russ is forced to help. The absolute best play here would be to hit White wide open on the wing, but DeRozan has earned the right to take last-second shots, but short rims it. Up by 1, Russ took his first bad shot of the night. Remember, he's awful from behind the arc this year, and a dribble step back 3 with 7 seconds on the clock was extremely suboptimal. Another pick and roll forces a switch of Adams onto Patty Mills, Aussie versus Kiwi, and put another shrimp on the Barbie. Down 2 with a perfect 2-for-1 opportunity, Paul George gets an open look, but there's Russ keeping it alive on the tap, and instead of forcing something into the teeth of the defense, he reads the floor, finds the open man, and lets Adams send it down to tie the game. Wow. After all the great offense the Spurs had run all game, it was frustrating to see them turn to straight ISO ball for the last shot, particularly against one of the best defenders in the game. The miss wasn't surprising, and the Thunder couldn't do anything with the extra 3/10 on the clock, so we get a second overtime. Here's where things got a little bit crazy, and another play ex-NBA referee Ronnie Nunn and I will go over in part 2 of this video, so check it out. Basically, there's a provocative arm swing by Aldridge that doesn't get called a foul, George is extremely demonstrative, and the referee feels he has no choice but to call a technical foul. When Paul George doesn't take this 3, good effort by DeRozan to contest, it goes to Russ, who makes another costly bad decision, an off the dribble 3 with 9 seconds on the clock that clanks, and the Spurs are in control. This play was also gone over by me and Ronnie, since many Thunder fans clamored for a foul, but you can see Derek White make an incredible recovery to block this shot from behind and allow the Spurs to keep their slim 4-point lead. The game got bogged down on this play, as the Thunder played great defense to force the ball out of Aldridge's hands, and with the shot clock winding down, White had no choice but to jack it up. Problem is, if the ball misses the rim, it's the Thunder's ball on a shot clock violation. If it did hit the rim, it's out on Jeremy Grant, Spurs ball. This decision could easily help decide the game. Ronnie and I go over the thought process and exactly what happened in part 2, but suffice it to say, the refs decided no shot clock violation, Spurs ball. Up by only 2, they run another White Aldridge pick and roll, find him with great post position, but Grant recovers to block this. The referee on the baseline makes a foul call though, even though he wasn't in great position. And you guessed it, part 2 goes over this in even more detail, so click over. The Thunder needed another quick 2 here. Watch White take away the first ball screen, and the switch thwarts Russ on the next one. Another screen sees Russ give it up rather quickly, and when Ferguson puts this down on the ground, Billy Donovan probably sensed trouble. He got stuck up in the air. There's Derek White with a game-saving steal, and that pretty much sealed the game. We did have one more weird bit of refereeing with this last shot, and for a clearer explanation, join me and Ronnie on this one too. The end result was the ref called a very dubious foul, and since it occurred before the shot, it was only 2 free throws for Adams, not a 3-pointer for George. To finish it off, Adams seems to have a real knack for missing free throws on purpose. Look how perfect this play is, but when the shot doesn't fall, there's just not enough time left, and the Spurs finally take this glorious game. So there you have it, sports fans, an incredible ending to what I think was the best game of the year. Join us in part 2 to go through all the troubling calls, and I'm sure will make you feel a lot better about your team and why the rest blew their whistles. You in?